Continuing our conversation now, Aisha, pick it up.
Yeah, well, so you mentioned this monolithic, idea, and back to corporate America. There's lots of headlines and discussions about a person of color being added to the board. But typically, what we're seeing is that there's this tag with this position that they are part of inclusion and collaboration, or they're head of diversity, things like that. What would you say to maybe the top 15 corporations, Fortune 15s, that are doing this and almost speaking to the employees that, that's what you are. You are part of this monolith. If you are to get on the board, that's the role you're going to get. We can't help but to feel like that's all that we're being seen for. How would you attack that?
I'd change the membership of the board. I'd change the makeup of the board. If there aren't people of color, if there aren't members of different sex group and groups of different gender on the board, you don't have a board. You have a group that are bored, B-O-R-E-D, and they're damn B-O-R-I-N-G to listen to. And I'd also accent listen instead, to sit down at a card table and talk. Don't sit down at a card table and talk if you're a melanated person. Sit down at a card table and, by the gods of war, listen. And if you listen to what people of color are telling you and realize that they aren't lying, they aren't making it up, they aren't making excuses, and they aren't playing the race card. Now, somebody in some corporation somewhere has to make a deck of cards and call it the race deck. And every card, everything that you're going to put on there, whether it's about housing, education, the military, the wars we fight, the makeup of our boards on corporations, the makeup of our Senate, our House of Representatives, and now our Supreme Court, every one of those has a horrible racist component in it. Every facet of our lives is in some way controlled by racism. And you need to make that deck of cards and put those different issues on it. And on each one of those cards, list the ways in which racism affects that issue. And you'll find out if you play that deck and you hand out the deck and you open up your hand and play a card. And it's a race card. If it's about something in the United States of America, it's a race card. If you think education isn't racist, you need to take a look at the social studies books that tell you that only white males did the valuable things that were done in this country. And we were able, and we not only are able, we are determined to deny the things that are done, deny those that are done by women. And by black people, forget about it. You can name 4 black people who made valuable contributions to the history of the United States as described in the social studies text in this country. What we teach in this country is anti-social studies, because it's hard to have a society in which you recognize only people of one color as being competent to run the show. Now, if I pull up to a stop sign here in town, and I'm sitting there, and the light is red, and there's a trucker beside me, gunning his motor because he's on a schedule and he's got to get moving. And I look up at him, he's this big white man, he's running a big truck. And I smile, and I know I'm thinking he's cute. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if that fool knew that what was controlling his behavior at that time was invented by a black man, he'd probably run the light. And if he knew that the big fat boots that he's wearing were the ability to get those depended on the invention of a black man who made the first last for sewing shoes together mechanically so that you could have cheap shoes easily made, he'd stop wearing boots. He does not realize how much of his life is dependent upon inventions, creations, discoveries of people of different color groups. He doesn't have to know, because he's a big, tall, pale-faced, melanemic man who has a great big truck. And if I disagree with him, he could destroy me. He knows that, but he's being very kind about it. And the reason he's kind about it is he thinks I think he's cute. I know what I think, and I think he is miseducated. And I feel sorry for white males right now. They aren't fragile. They are deliberately ignorant. The number one problem in the United States of America is ignorance. And the greatest ignorance we have in this country is the ignorance of believing that there's more than one race.
And Aisha, what I would tell your bosses is that trying to integrate a board is just bad business. I mean, the truth of the matter is you've got $1.4 trillion in buying power in Black America. You've got $4 trillion in America as a whole, if you include women as another minority. And what you look at and you say, just think about how much money you could make. If you looked at it from the model of the NBA, when Jane was young, they were doing an underhanded shovel shot, no dunks, no slam dunk contest, none of that stuff. They have made a boatload of money off of diversity. If you look at pizza, they laughed at Italians when they came to this country. They laughed at Irish when they came to this country. They have laughed at every ethnic group until they realized that there was monetization in there. So don't look at it from the standpoint of being a minority. Look at it from the standpoint of being a consumer and saying, if you really want to make a lot of money, invite my group in. So we're going to take another break. Another question from Aisha. Stay with us.